When man discovered God, he discovered a shapeless, featureless, endless entity with which he could not cope. And so, in order to handle the mystery of God, man reduced that mystery to a shape that he could recognize and therefore understand. Man reduced God to a human-like family, a family of God the Father, known by my people the Zulus as Unkulunkulu, which means the greatest of the great ones. And God, the Great Mother, known by the Zulus as Nomcubulwana, which means the plower of the many fields, the lady of many plowshares. And God the Son, known by the Zulus as Umvelingangi, which means the firstborn of the Almighty. This stone here is engraved with the 10 great laws of the Almighty. And this serpent symbolizes one of the most important pillars of the traditional black religion, that is a belief in reincarnation, that which lives now shall travel along the road of life, shall die only to resume the journey of life in another shape. This is the symbolism of the double spiral serpent. It's a symbolism of rebirth. Also, it is a symbolism of the secret road that, according to ancient tradition, was taken by people between this star system of ours, the solar system, and other solar systems, because we are told there was a secret spiral road which you could travel from this earth of ours to other planets. But when man became aggressive and sinful, the gods closed the path of the many returns, as it was called. We are shown another spiral, but this time this spiral represents not the secret pathway between the stars, but the hidden force. Another extraterrestrial entity, known as Pinky Pinky, had put in an appearance. And these entities always put up an appearance at certain times when dramatic events are about to take place in the country. I do know from experience that whenever there are several sightings of a Dogolosh, there is always trouble of some kind in the offing. There was a rash of Dogolosh sightings and terrorization just before the Second World War. There was another just before the Durban riots of 1949. And there was another rush of such happenings before the tragic events of Sharpeville in March 1960. And let me tell you this, that just before the Soweto riots of 1976, two Mhondoruka creatures were seen moving through the long grass on the edge of Zola Township, which is part of the great Soweto township complex. These creatures were seen by over 20 people, some of them residents of the township and some of them mere passers-by. And They were seen in broad daylight in the late afternoon just before sunset, and the sighting lasted almost the greater part of an hour. Not long thereafter, a group of faith healers went to the spot where the creatures had been seen and tried to exorcise whatever negative energy they had left there. And a very amazing thing happened. The moment the people stepped onto that place, they went crazy. They started behaving in an illogical and totally insane way. Men removed their trousers and started dancing in the veld. Women screamed and went into hysterical fits, some of them utterly catatonic. It was a really amazing spectacle. But it wasn't just the human beings who were affected. A small dog which had followed a group of children to the place also started behaving strangely. It turned upon its owners and chased the legs off them across the veld before it calmed down. When you are a Sangoma, your life ceases to be your own. When you are a Sangoma, you stop becoming an ordinary human being, but you become rather a lonely pilgrim traveling that strange grey road between the known and the little known, between the visible and the invisible, between the mysterious and the crushingly ordinary. And when I became a Sangoma, I started walking along this road. When you are a Sangoma, you do not look for trouble. No self-respecting Sangoma ever does. But trouble finds you. People come to your doorstep, bringing ordinary complaints with which you can deal. But they also sometimes bring strange mysteries to the doorstep of your life, mysteries that change your life forever. I remember my first case, which was to be one of several hundred to date, of the first person who was brought to me with an incredible story to tell. The person had been a schoolboy called Sipho. Sipho told us that he had been captured by strange creatures whom he called dolls. And these dolls had brought him to a strange place and had done strange things to him that had made him almost mad with terror and fear. And to support his story, Sipho showed us two strange injuries on his buttocks. These injuries were depressions in the young boy's flesh, as if flesh had been mysteriously sucked out by some means, leaving the skin intact but caved in to form a depression. I remember studying Sipho's injuries with great amazement. I had never seen anything like this in my life before. But I was to see many more in years to come. People who told a strange story of how they had been taken by strange creatures and cruelly tortured and molested and then returned back to their homes as if nothing had happened. Some of these people had been kidnapped while going to work. Some of them had been kidnapped after many a drunken binge in a neighboring village or homestead. Some of these people had been abducted while carrying on with their daily duties in the veld. I remember a woman who had lost her job with a farmer who employed her because she had suddenly disappeared from the labor gang while they were out in the orchard reaping oranges not far from the town of Zebediela. Antu means the children of Antu, of Untu, the god, the mother goddess Antu. And Anu means children of the god. And these gods were blacks, not white. When Africa was born, there is a great mistake, Menier, that scientists are making. They tell you that Egypt was in North Africa. Ach nee, meneer, dit is nie so nie. Jong, I speak Afrikaans nogal. Ja. Dit is nie so nie. Die land van Egypte was hier so in Suid-Afrika. Here in South Africa, there is a place in the Cape and in a part of Natal where you see all kinds of marks on flat stones. And when you look at these marks are made by boats.
Boats.
Yeah?
I'm sorry,
Boats.
Boats.
Oh.
Ships.
Yeah.
The land of Egypt did not begin where fools say it is. The land of Egypt began right here in South Africa, in Natal. It is there where the holy stones were created. It is there where people, if they had some sense in their heads, would be talking with the real gods of heaven. Honorable Menier, our people did not imagine gods. Our people saw the gods. And they were not the so-called spacemen whom fools think they see today. They were as real as you and I are. And they told our ancestors and ancestresses how to create a civilization in South Africa. This thing, Honorable One, you recognize what it is? It is a pharaoh's scepter. We dug it up in a cave here in South Africa. Thousands of years ago, our people spoke with the creatures from the stars. And we are told, we who try to follow the old way, that the ancestors from the stars are going to come again and pay us a visit before great changes occur in this planet.
A disturbing vision reveals the origin of the AIDS virus.
There is a shadow gliding over this world. I had a horrible dream, a hideous vision of what it was, where it came from, and what it would do. I was shown a laboratory somewhere in the United States of America. I was shown scientists of several nations, French, British, and American and Canadian, all collaborating in a hideous experiment, which was to introduce diseases which would wipe out whole armies, which would debilitate whole populations in times of war. And one of these diseases is the thing we call AIDS. AIDS is a man-made disease created as a weapon of war which proved so terrible that it had to be abandoned. They could not destroy the virus. They gave it to a firm of toxic waste disposal. But by that time, a number of containers of this hideous disease, which were yellow on the outside, of very thick metal with glass containers inside them, had already been taken to the land of the Germans, and there they had been stored in a secret place. Someone suggested that some of them should be dumped into the North Sea, not far from the west of Scandinavia. But others said no, they should be taken with other poisonous waste to third world countries and buried there. A ship came from Europe bearing these containers, and one of them had a fault in its lid. A little accident occurred, and a sailor touched one of the yellow cylinders and was contaminated by it through cuts in his hands.
Well, there have been reports now of this British seaman that went back to about 1954 when a chap died in England, and they went back and they had his tissues and they had blood, and they went and tested it, and he was found to be HIV positive.
When the ship arrived in West Africa, the cylinders were taken up aboard a truck, and from there they were taken aboard a dirty-looking helicopter. I could see them clearly what they did. This was contrary to agreement reached between this company and a corrupt African official, because the agreement had been that a hole should be dug very deep, but the official and his friends decided to pocket the money. They decided simply to dump the waste in an African lake, in a country called Cameroon. Some of the local villagers started becoming sick, and then the disease spread into Central Africa. In the very near future, people dying of AIDS will pose the greatest security threat that the Western civilization has ever seen.
All life is a melody. If you can find the right rhythm, you can cure the patient.
The people who created AIDS have the effrontery to say that AIDS is a disease of African origin. Have the cheek to say that AIDS was created by God in order to put an end to promiscuity on this planet, which is absolute nonsense. What I find most horrifying is that the same people are telling us a blatant lie that AIDS is incurable. It is curable. It can be cured, but not by drugs. My visions tell me, in order to cure AIDS, sound in various forms must be used. If the sound is carefully calculated, the sound would be capable of destroying the AIDS viruses within the human being without endangering the human being at all.